Heat gets you killed. Not noise, not light, heat. Long before satellites and digital sensors, armies in World War II learned a brutal lesson the hard way. If the enemy could see your warmth against the cold ground or night air, you were already dead. And that lesson gave birth to one of the most overlooked survival innovations of the war era, the thermal invisible shelter, what we'll call today the ghost shelter. This isn't fantasy. This is raw wartime engineering, built under fire, refined through loss, and designed to make human beings disappear. This is before modern times, and we're going straight into the knowledge that kept soldiers alive when there was no second chance. Why heat gives you away. Thermal detection didn't begin with modern cameras. Even in World War II, aircraft crews, artillery observers, and night patrols learned to read heat signatures indirectly. Snowmelt patterns, condensation, steam rising at dawn. A shelter that trapped heat incorrectly left a visible scar on the landscape. Warmth pooled in one place was unnatural, and nature always snitches. The ghost shelter method was built around one idea. Never let your heat escape upward, and never let it touch the surface the enemy can see. World War II, it really forced armies to rethink how they built shelters. Early in the war, shelters were, little more than death traps. Soldiers dug shallow foxholes, pitched canvas tents, or huddled in dugouts lined with nothing but bare earth. These makeshift shelters managed to keep the wind out, sure, but they trapped body heat inside, bleeding precious warmth straight into the ground and out through the roof. At night, frost patterns would form around these positions, giving away their location. In winter, snow above the shelters melted first, exposing them even more. And in warmer climates, steam and disturbed soil told the same story. By the middle of the war, veteran units had figured things out, not because of any manual, but simply through the hard lessons of survival. They learned to build shelters that didn't just hide their bodies, but hid their heat as well. The real secret, the foundation that makes you vanish, is depth. The ghost shelter always starts with depth. But not just any depth. This isn't about comfort. It's about survival. A proper thermally invisible shelter goes lower than your instincts might tell you to dig. The deeper you go, the more stable the ground temperature becomes. At a certain point, the Earth just stops reacting to changes on the surface, and that, right there, is where you want to live. But depth alone isn't enough. Direct contact with the ground is a mistake. Body heat transfers fast into soil. World War II engineers and field troops learned to create dead airspace beneath and around sleeping areas. Wooden slats, packed brush, even empty ammunition crates were used to lift bodies slightly off the earth. Air is insulation. Dead air is invisibility. Layering the invisible way. The mistake modern people make is thinking insulation means trapping heat. In the ghost shelter, insulation means controlling where heat goes. Walls were layered, not thickened. Soil on the outside for mass. Organic material in the middle to break heat flow. Air pockets inside to slow transfer. Nothing shiny, nothing reflective. Reflective surfaces bounce heat in unpredictable ways and create thermal anomalies. In World War II, anything that looked artificial was avoided. The goal, really, was to make the shelter behave just like untouched ground. You see, the roof is where most shelters fail. This, honestly, is where soldiers learned the hardest lessons. Heat rises, everyone knows that. But with a flat roof, warmth gets concentrated right above your body. And, well, that's exactly how you get spotted. The ghost shelter roof was angled, layered and broken up. Heat was guided sideways, not up. Thin layers of earth, separated by organic matter, dispersed warmth gradually over a wider area. Veterans learned to add an extra layer of soil and then let it sit untouched. Footprints erased, natural debris scattered back into place. The roof had to look old, not freshly built. Fresh ground, you know, radiates differently. Ventilation without betrayal. That was the key. You see, a sealed shelter turns into a heat bomb, but if you open vents, well, they leak warmth like a flare. The solution was slow airflow, not free airflow. Back in World War II, shelters used bent ventilation paths. Never straight, mind you. Air channels ran horizontally before exiting, cooling the heat before it reached the surface. Some vents were routed through brush piles or tree roots to disguise temperature differences. Others exited downhill, where warm air blended with natural ground emissions. The lesson was simple, really. Let heat escape slowly and sideways, never directly upward. Sleeping positions that matter. Even how you sleep changes your thermal footprint. Soldiers learned to avoid pressing their core directly against shelter walls. The centre of the shelter stayed cooler. Movement was minimized. No pacing, no unnecessary activity. Every motion pumps heat into the structure. Multiple occupants were spaced, not clustered. One heat source is easier to hide than several merged into one hotspot. This wasn't comfort thinking, this was survival math. Why this method worked so well? The ghost shelter didn't make you cold, it made you boring. To sensors, to observers, to nature itself. The ground above remained consistent with its surroundings. Frost patterns stayed even. Snow melted naturally. No steam plumes, no dark patches at dawn. In World War II, boring meant invisible, and invisible meant alive. Why this still matters today? This knowledge wasn't designed for comfort or aesthetics. It was designed under pressure, refined under threat, and proven by survival. Whether you're a history enthusiast, a preparedness thinker, or someone who respects old-world ingenuity, the ghost is Chantas Geschoss anders Sommers to Perchon dir Obenales when it occurred die. Sense, something modern systems often forget. Technology changes, physics doesn't. Heat always moves, nature always notices, and survival always favours those who understand both. Before modern times, people didn't rely on gadgets. They relied on understanding the world around them deeply enough to disappear into it. That's the real lesson. If you want more forgotten survival knowledge, real World War II ingenuity and ancient wisdom that still works today, subscribe to Before Modern Times. Share this with someone who thinks history is boring. It never was, and it might save you one day.